Emmerdale teased that the village would soon plunge into darkness, and it all began with one name whispered with dread: John. The man had arrived without fanfare, a quiet presence at first, with eyes that saw too much and a smile that never quite reached them. To those unaware, John appeared to be just another soul seeking redemption in the picturesque countryside. But behind the polite nods and comforting gestures lay a mind teetering on the edge of madness. It began subtly. John had a way of making people feel safe, even when danger was inches away. His charm was delicate yet deliberate, luring trust from the unsuspecting. He would find someone struggling, a flat tire on a rainy road, a barn door creaking in the wind, and arrive like a guardian angel. Only, what no one knew was that he had orchestrated the crisis himself. The first to suffer was Nate. Emmerdale would never forget him, his easy smile, the way he could make a room laugh. John noticed that about Nate too. But instead of admiration, John felt something darker: envy. He didn't just want to erase Nate, he wanted to be the one who mourned him the most, the one who tried to save him. On a chilled morning in spring, Nate was found at the base of a ravine near Butler's farm. It looked like a tragic accident at first: slippery footing, loose gravel. But the villagers noticed something strange. John had been there. He'd been the one to raise the alarm, the one to cradle Nate's lifeless body and cry the loudest. The villagers clung to the narrative of a hero caught in a storm of tragedy, but Robert was not so easily fooled. Robert watched John closely. He couldn't understand the man's constant need to be near danger, nor the strange coincidences that seemed to follow him. John had suddenly become overly generous, bringing hot meals to the bereaved, fixing broken fences, showing up at every community meeting. Robert's instincts screamed that something was off. But it wasn't just Robert who would feel the shadows creeping in. Owen, still recovering from the grief of Nate's death, began pulling away from the village. He spent more time alone, seeking solace in long walks and quiet corners. John noticed, and pounced. When Liam, ever the gossip, carelessly mentioned that Owen had gone camping alone for the weekend, John knew the opportunity was perfect. That night, a storm rolled across Emmerdale. Trees were felled, roads flooded, and panic spread. When Owen failed to return, search parties were formed. John, predictably, was first to volunteer. He led the group, directing them toward the very spot he knew Owen would be, and where he would not be found alive. Once again, John returned alone, soaked in rain and grief, claiming he'd found Owen too late. And once again, the villagers mourned, their trust deepening with each new tragedy. But the walls were closing in. Rumors began to swirl, especially after Robert confronted John in the woolpack, demanding answers. John kept his composure, even managing a few tears, but Robert saw the flicker behind his eyes. He knew. And now, he would find proof. Yet the most tragic entanglement of all belonged to Aaron. Lonely, raw, and haunted by his own demons, Aaron saw in John a kindred spirit. John was the first person in a long time who listened, truly listened. He didn't judge Aaron's silences, or his outbursts. He simply stayed. And for a while, Aaron believed he had found someone who understood him. John was careful. With Aaron, he didn't need to manipulate. He simply offered warmth and stability, two things Aaron had been starved of for years. Slowly, Aaron opened up, inviting John into parts of his life no one else had seen. He let down his guard, and fell in love. But love, in John's world, was a dangerous thing. It made people blind, and John exploited that with practiced ease. He learned Aaron's rhythms, calmed his tempers with gentle words, soothed his fears with empty promises. And all the while, he kept his secret locked away, behind that same soft voice and patient smile. Still, there were moments, tiny fractures in the facade. When Aaron caught John staring at a broken bird with an eerie calm. When he overheard John lie effortlessly to Chuz about where he'd been. When he noticed how John always seemed to know when someone was vulnerable, how he always just happened to be there. Aaron began asking questions, not aloud but in the quiet of his mind. And Robert, sensing the shift, reached out. Their conversations were brief at first, cautious. But Robert planted seeds, tales of Nate's last words, the inconsistencies in John's timeline, the way Owen's body had been found. Aaron dismissed them at first, unwilling to believe. But doubt had a way of growing. Meanwhile, John was unraveling. The pressure of maintaining his image, the whispers in the village, the way Liam had started looking at him strangely, it was all too much. He tried to anchor himself in Aaron, but the warmth was fading. Aaron had grown quiet, watchful. One night, Aaron confronted him. Not directly, but with a question that sliced through the veil. Were you with Owen that night? John didn't answer. He smiled instead, a slow, eerie thing, and said, "Why would you ask something like that?" Aaron left, shaken. He didn't sleep that night. The next morning, Robert found a note tucked under his door. It was from Aaron. Short, barely legible, but enough to ignite fear in Robert's chest. "I think I'm next," it read. Robert knew time was running out. He gathered what evidence he could, photos, phone records, inconsistencies in John's rescue stories. He brought it to the police, but without a smoking gun, it was all circumstantial. Worse, John was always one step ahead. He'd planted alibis, manipulated timestamps, coached witnesses. Then came the turning point, an old woman from a neighboring village. She recognized John's face in a flyer for a charity event and came forward. Her niece had died under strange circumstances years ago, and John had been the last person to see her. The case had gone cold, dismissed as a tragic accident. But now, with Emmerdale's deaths piling up, her words carried weight. The police reopened the case. Quietly. But John sensed the tide shifting. He grew paranoid, distant. He tried to win Aaron back with a heartfelt letter, describing a fake childhood filled with loss and longing. Aaron didn't respond. Instead, Aaron returned to Robert's house. The two of them, once bitter enemies, now found common cause in the desire to stop a monster. And all the while, John watched from the shadows, planning his next move. He couldn't let Aaron betray him. Not now. Not after everything they'd shared. So he waited. And when the moment came, he would strike again. But this time, someone would be ready.